Yes.
This is the Avatar cast.
Welcome to the Avatar cast, where we will talk about blue people.
Also
not the animated series that
Absolutely
was featured
not.
on
No.
Nickelodeon.
So, tonight, because I'm assuming you're listening to this at night, you're next to your loved ones, you've got a nice cup of cocoa.
This is what normal people do.
Yeah, normal people, you know, you got your
Got your
hams and your
laptop.
corduroys, you're reaching in for your Imodiums because you have a sensitive stomach. So today we're talking about Avatar. Avatar is a 2009 James Cameron film, and since then he's spent the last 8 years working on sequels. He spent nearly 10 years making the first movie, so by the time the second one comes out, he will have spent 20 years on this franchise. A visionary like James Cameron, I don't think should have spent all this time on there, because he's the one who brought us Terminator, The Abyss, Aliens, Titanic, all of these great things, True Lies. It's one of those things, I feel like his talent is being wasted. It's being wasted on something that's profitable, but not necessarily the best thing that he could focus on.
Okay, so we have to think, though. All right, Avatar, right to this day, #1, like, highest grossing film ever of all time. So when you're looking back at Avatar, the reason it was so revolutionary for its time was simply because of the technology. Like, no one had ever seen anything like it before.
But also, it had a universal story.
You know,
Okay.
it did. You're right. It was that it played off the whole fucking Pocahontas.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Fern
but you're right.
Gully.
Pocahontas type
Dances with
thing.
Wolves.
Absolutely.
Dances with Wolves. The technology though. This is it. It came out the moment that the technology was able to back up that type of story to
Absolutely.
convey that message. Like where this is a story that was in his mind for 10 years prior to it even coming out, where the technology just wasn't there yet, where it finally did come and he was able to produce this.
I agree. I personally believe that it was a makeup of not only the story itself, but also the technology that was used to incorporate the visual effects of the film. And had one of them been lacking, it probably would not have been as large as it has been.
But I feel like since he focused so much on the technology, he put the story as a secondary thing. He picked something that he knew people would like because it was a familiar story that had been told before, and retold it in a specific way with this brand new groundbreaking technology, which is something to admire. But at the same time, I feel like in order for it to be as truly groundbreaking as he was hoping, it should have done something different with the story as well. Because it's, I say it a lot, style over substance. It's still a fine narrative, but I feel like it's less than what it's trying to be, no matter how successful it was.
Okay, so, and before we get too deep, what we're doing right now is, in the light of the fact that James Cameron is producing 5 total sequels,
Yeah.
I just want to quickly say this is a retrospective on why Avatar was successful, are kind of good and bad of them, and we should also just do a general introduction of ourselves as well. So my name is Zach.
My name's Dan.
My name's Nick.
My name is Matthew.
All right, and we do have some audience members that are willing to join in at any time.
Get off the stage.
Speaking of this is also at the height of like 3D as well, which I think was a huge draw, but has died off.
Introduction.
Hold on,
3D is
I'm sorry.
garbage.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
But Avatar is one of the first things to really push 3D into the mainstream, and that's why we have all of these 3D movies now. I personally have not seen a movie in 3D other than Toy Story and the re-release of Jurassic Park, where the 3D
I
has
would
been
say,
all worth
in regards to 3D, it's okay when it comes to animation, but when it comes to film itself, you're supposed to experience it standard, because that is the closest we get to the human eye. 3D, it's not natural for us, and I'm against it because of that. Going back to Avatar.
Yeah, I mean 3D was a huge push for Avatar, and it was one of the I personally saw Avatar numerous times, and a couple of times those were in 3D because that was exactly the marketing behind the film. It was meant to be seen in 3D. That was his vision. I totally believe it, and I believe even the way he filmed it necessarily for 3D.
I don't think it was necessary though.
But that's how he filmed it. I believe right. Like,
it was
if
his
you,
vision.
If it
Yeah.
was, and I can respect that, but if you watch the movie Stanley, I don't think anything obnoxiously stands out like that. Where it's like, oh, you have to see this movie in 3D. I think we can agree then that the movie is great enough in both ways, where it's you can see the movie either in 3D or standardly, and you can still take the same amount from it.
but if
That's my belief.
But if a director is intentionally filming something in 3D, very much like Nolan's Dunkirk filmed for IMAX, right? If
Okay.
James Cameron decided to film in 3D intentionally with 2 cameras
Okay.
to give that perspective,
Yeah.
and then you decide as an audience member to not see the film in the way that
Okay.
the director intended,
Here's
what
a-
does that say about?
No. I'm
his vision?
saying.
What it says
can,
about
I'm
his
saying
vision
it
is
could
that
go.
it's extremely
I-
expensive.
Yeah, I'm saying it could go either way. My biggest thing with the whole 3D thing is like, I think as a filmmaker, he may have been he wanted to put more exposure on the story world, where it's like, he wanted you to be in there, and yes, sometimes viewing things in 3D can absolutely help with that, with seeing the environment, becoming a part of that environment, and 3D can help you feel like you are there, but I don't think that, like, not seeing 3D takes away from the importance of the film.
The importance of the film, though, is not the storyline or anything like that. It's the fact
It's the
that
visuals.
it's the
It's
visuals.
3D.
It's the visual. If you're arguing that the reason that Avatar is so great is because it immerses you into another world, which is through the visuals and
Yeah.
through the planet, it is because you were immersed in the world. The storyline
Yeah.
it's Pocahontas. It's dead on the floor. Unobtainium. That's why they gotta destroy the mother tree.
Yeah.
No, the story is
So you're saying that.
tertiary.
So basically, then what you're saying is this was just a
dubious.
No, it was a Dubai, alcohol. It was a Dubai for like the technology of the time,
Oh,
like
the
finally being able to have a film this visually enticing.
I think it was the idea of James Cameron being the revolutionary in his own way film director, saying, I'm going to have my film be almost completely CGI in 3D, and people are going to go to it in swarms because I made it.
I would also like to interject here. You know, we as people who are living in the northeast of the United States of America are somewhat biased. And the reason I say that is specifically because of price. You have to look at the market as well when it comes to these types of these types of movies, and the visual effects that are added in these movies. Where back in our day of 2009,
Yeah,
when
2009.
the movie came out, had we gone and seen this movie in normal non 3D view, which as Zach, as you put it, which is not the intention of the director. The director naturally made the movie for 3D. If we were to see it in non 3D, it would be probably in 2009 about $11. If we had seen it in 3D, it probably would have been closer to 15. Now, as somebody who's speaking from experience of living also in the South, I can say a normal movie costs $6 to $7, whereas a 3D movie is barely 10. So it's a completely different animal when you really look at it subjectively. Depending on the location that you live in the country, you're seeing the exact same fucking movie. But the difference is of the market value that you have on the movie, where even the ratio between the standard and the 3D version of the film is going to be larger than the ratio if you were to go to southern states, possibly even more western states.
And this is a different dynamic of film, though.
Absolutely,
Like, we're talking about
absolutely.
yeah.
That's what we're talking about too. Is not only
I can understand
Avatar
that.
is that landmark film. Avatar is the film in 2009 where James Cameron was going to set the standard for 3D is a viable option. A completely CGI film is a viable option.
I agree.
And it
I
is
agree.
worth the extra $5 or whatever.
What happens when that movie comes out of the theater? What happens when it gets put on a Blu-ray disc and there are 3D glasses that are added to it? That completely diminishes the entire purpose of the film, whereas you're looking at it on a 32-inch screen compared to an entire movie theater regalia screen. That's the point I'm trying to, I guess, make.
Yeah.
Is
And I
there's a
think
complete
I-
differentiation,
and-
especially when it comes to the market.
And I think when it comes to movies like this, where there is a combining of natural film, natural video, where the subject matter is captured through a video camera and combined with CGI, is like, how do those two combine well together? What makes that work? What makes both of them work together at the same time? Avatar was one of those movies that did so, in my opinion.
And it's because of the fact that almost the entirety of the film, when you're in the Na'vi world, is entirely in CG. So it's able to make that convincing between the live action versus the CG, is because there's very much a live action realm and there's very much a CG realm. And we also have to take a moment to step back and say, this is 2017. We've seen the future. In 2009, we didn't know that sitting in 2017, 4K would almost be getting to the fact of a standard in the home, whereas 3D TVs have almost died out.
The LG and Samsung were the last two manufacturers, and after 2016, they've stopped full production of 3D TVs because 3D DVDs sell okay, but it's one of those things where if you paid for the TV, you're gonna buy them, but other than that, they're not getting any new markets.
Yeah.
It's just the people who feel the need to do it because they've already paid for this peripheral. Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like they tried to predict what would come, but instead of learning the best things from the 3D experience of Avatar, they just thought, let's just make everything 3D. And the downside there is there's a lot of movies where there's just things where it's like, why the hell is that popping at me? And then you realize, oh, that's only in there for 3D audiences. And then you have movies like the Hobbit movies that are filmed 48 frames per second. They look too smooth. The CGI is odd. And when you see them in 3D, it looks like there's a layering where someone has just put a iMovie filter of snow over something as opposed to the fact that there's snow landing there.
Which is the exact point that I was trying to bring up with, which is that when it came to the Avatar movie, it definitely did create that kind of, I guess you could say, market or vacuum of films that wanted to just switch to 3D. Because we had that kind of switch, it depended on the location of where you lived, whether or not you were going to choose to spend that extra couple of dollars. Because even if you look in the southern states of modern day America, you'll notice that it's only maybe $3 extra to see a 3D movie, which really isn't that bad compared to if you live in the Northeast, where you're already overpaying for a film. Plus, the 3D is at least $5 more, or something along those lines.
And again, going off of what Nick just said about, I'm sorry, but your knowledge, I didn't know about that, but the knowledge of 3D TV sets,
Absolutely.
like, again, it's something that is becoming less and less preferred, I guess,
Right.
as we go on. It's just, and again, not as necessary as we once thought, where, hey, when we were younger, we're like, oh, a 3D movie for a birthday party, we could see
Awesome.
a superhero movie, fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Nailed it, right? But now it's different.
I wouldn't
feel
see a
like
3D movie.
it was an era for 3D things. 'Cause
Yeah.
The Nintendo 3DS also came out around that time too. Or at least they were trying to introduce it and integrate that and be like the new thing. But I feel like that didn't really like kick off too well either.
I
In
agree.
terms of the 3DS, though, like
Yeah.
that is still one of in terms
very
of handheld,
iconic.
it is one of the best selling aside from the original DS. I
Yeah,
believe,
of course.
the most iconic, because it didn't need to use the glasses
Yeah,
or whatever.
it wasn't necessary.
and
I
Yeah,
feel
the
like gaming is
option.
also naturally more immersive than a
Yes.
movie
Yeah.
because you are controlling what's going on
yeah,
throughout. Avatar, Mad Max, Jurassic Park, any of these movies that implement 3D, it's more just, we're going to show you a visual.
And we're gonna
And
do the best we can.
We're going
to
to do, exactly.
Yep,
And
that's it.
like,
I know where you're going.
there's no way for you to possibly feel the same sort of investment if you have no control over what it is. And there's a lot of movies where they just do it to, we have the 3D gimmick, so we're gonna put it in there, and it doesn't have the same impact. Using it to make you feel like you're part of the movie is something completely different. I know they also have like they have the screenings of movies where, oh, if it's snowing, they'll shoot the AC at you or hit you with
the
fake
4D
water
whatever it is,
droplets if it's raining. Yeah, and it's like Shrek 4D at Universal where there's spiders and then they tickle your feet and stuff like that. And it starts off as a gimmick, but that is something that I can actually understand because people go to movies for escapism. And at this point, I feel like people are almost so jaded they can't even focus on the movies that they're going to see. You see constant phones lighting up in there, people just wandering out. But it's one of those things where I feel like it started off with good intentions and maybe has picked up in other markets like gaming, and even virtual reality is almost an extension of it because it gives you the 3D experience of this event. But you actually can interact with it.
And I think that's the main thing, though, is I think when the advent of 3D being a huge place in the market share of movies, we saw that with Avatar. And over the course of time, we've seen that the idea of going to a movie is we want to see those hyper-realistic visuals, which is why 4K TVs, which is the resolution of a movie screen, has now come to the home. Whereas the 3D aspect in the idea of immersion has come into VR or AR for video games and stuff like
that has kind of taken over that realm.
Yes.
I agree.
But then my question is, if we're looking at movies specifically, does this mean that 4K as a standard in both movies, like if you go to a movie theater, it is because you want to experience something greater than just your home TV screen, right?
Yeah.
If you go to a movie, you want to get that movie theater experience. If the movie theater experience can be transferred to the home because you're getting your 4K resolution in the theater as well as your home, what's the point of going to the theater anymore?
So
I would say then that would just have to fall back on the size. I know you're saying, but like I think then again like it comes down to like size of the screen and everything. 4K is 4K wherever you see it. So if I'm sitting in my home and I'm in front of the TV and that TV's 4K, that is gonna look fantastic. When I'm in a theater and that's 4K, again, still gonna look fantastic, just bigger.
I'd like to go off of what you just said. 4K is extremely popular in the market because it is. 4K is essentially just saying it's a higher quality. 3D is more of a gimmick. 3D is something where if you try to advertise and market for it, it is what are the benefits of getting a 3D television? What are the benefits of getting a 3D Blu-ray player, et cetera, et cetera? There really aren't any. You would have to invest in glasses. You would have to invest in a television that can actually do that. And they at the time, 2011, 2013, they were extremely expensive comparatively to their HD counterparts that weren't in 3D. Now we have 4K, which is only a slightly a bit upgrade.
Yeah, and we're eventually getting to the point where like it's unnoticeable. You're gonna get to a point though where you're not going to be able to increase quality anymore. Where it go from 4K to
there's
whatever,
already
8K
8K
again. Yeah,
things.
you're right.
There are 8K things in the market. We have people like as a YouTuber, I love MKBHD, a huge tech YouTuber. He is filming things in 8K right now because of his Red camera. When it comes to resolution, it's only going to get better. What matters though is what is going to drive people to upgrade to 4K and then to 8K, and if the movie like I said, I think we're getting away from the idea that the movie theater is an experience. You don't go to the movies just to see a film. You go for the experience that a movie theater is the only thing that can provide.
Personally, can I have a good experience in my home? Yes. Is it going to be that movie theater experience that you talk about? Probably not.
We should discuss what we think the next 5 Avatar films are going to push the filmmaking industry. So we've been talking so much about technology, and we need to kind of circle back to the idea of Avatar. So Avatar was the pivotal moment where James Cameron thought he was going to begin with this whole idea of 3D in movies. He now definitely has 5 sequels to Avatar. There is a theme park opened up down in Florida where it is based on Pandora. Where is he going to? Yeah. Yep. Where is he going to go in film with these next 5 sequels that is going to, in his mind, I'm sure, change the idea of filmmaking?
Explain for the audience the next 5 sequels. What are you referring to?
So right now in production,
At least there's a couple of them.
No, that's the thing. I have no idea what they will be about. All we know is that they will be set in the idea of the Avatar universe.
All
There's-
5 of
All
these
Yes.
movies?
5, yes.
There's thoughts that some of them might also be prequels. I know Sigourney Weaver has signed back to be a character in one of them, even though she died off in the first Avatar movie.
Okay.
It's very strange. It's very ballsy to go out there and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna make 4 sequels at once. I'm not gonna film them in order. Some days I'll be filming 2. Some days I'll be filming 5. Some days I'll be filming 3. And it's an interesting method of doing it, but I feel like the reason the first one is such a success is the amount of focus that went into this. I feel like this could easily turn into the James Cameron cinematic universe, where sometimes the movies may feel at least a little bit disjointed, and also the effects might not line up unless he's just. Well, it also seems like every time there's been about to be a release date, he changes it. So originally it was 2014, 2015, 2016, 17, 18, and it just got moved to 2020. And he just. By the time we get the sequel, it will have been over 10 years since the first Avatar movie.
I think it can be very successful as long as he doesn't lose what Avatar was about in the first film, which honestly really kind of just did set the kind of universe and open up a lot of opportunity for much more story to occur, which is most likely I think we can assume is going to be utilized in the films to come. But are there going to be those things where it might be unsettling for us, or might be something out of the ordinary, something we weren't expected? Was it good? Was it bad? I think that's all to come, and we just kind of have to wait now that he is producing and filming all these movies essentially around and about the same time.
I guess you're definitely right, and it just kind of occurred to me now is he trying to set up not only his own cinematic universe, or is this going to be something like his Star Wars?
That's exactly what I was thinking that moments ago as well. It could be another similar movie where it's this is now going to expand.
I absolutely agree. I think James Cameron is an innovative person, and I think that what he's trying to do right now is start something completely different. If he has to film 4 different films at once, just so that he can have all of them correlate with each other, regardless of when they eventually release to the public. I think what he's trying to do is make sure that everything stays to a specific story point, it stays to a specific path, and that way nothing gets skewed over time, as you see with films like, even Star Wars, where it seems you take a New Hope compared to The Force Awakens, and they're even though they are pretty much playing, the newer one is playing off of the older one, it's still completely different, and it has a very different type of mindset and style, because it's a 30 to 40 year jump in modern human time. I think what he's trying to do is just create a legacy all within one bundle of films. That way, regardless of when they release to the public, they all make sense and they all correlate with each other. They're all the original idea. Nothing gets tainted or changed. And I think he's just trying something new and different. And as somebody who's an innovative person who has now the #1 grossing film of all time, he's trying to be like the Elon Musk or the Steve Jobs of filmography and cinematography.
And while I understand that, I feel like there's also a good chance where if he fucks up the first sequel,
Yep.
that could set up for disaster for all the other ones.
Absolutely.
And also there's a good record of movies where they're like, yeah, we'll just film them at the same time, and you get Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3, where the second one's stronger, and the third one they kind of had to rush it and mix there, and there's a lot of scheduling errors. The Hobbit movies feel a bit disjointed. They have to come back for a lot of reshoots, and it's one of those things where I have high hopes because I've liked all of his movies. Avatar is actually the movie of his that I'm most lukewarm about, aside from like Piranhas, but that was the 70s, so can't hold it against him. And it's just it's one of those things. I don't know why this is the series where this is the be all end all. If this is what I spend the rest of my life doing, that I'm happy with that, because I feel like he's kickstarted or made sequels to other movies that are phenomenal, and he was just like, yeah, Avatar's the one that's just gonna take off. Maybe it's just because it made money. So did Titanic. You can't make a Titanic sequel, though they did. There is a Titanic too.
There is, yep.
But also too, like, could we say that he attempted this also with Terminator as well, though? Like,
but the thing is, he made one Terminator movie and was happy. 10 years later, he realized that he wanted to do something different, but at the same time, he made 4 or 5 other movies in between Terminator 1 and 2.
Which works when we talk about, which I think does work when we're talking about like iconic films like Terminator, like Star Wars. He has this idea that Avatar could be an iconic movie for like almost a lifetime, where it's like, we already know that Star Wars is an iconic movie for our parents' generation, where when they think back to a movie that was like a part of that generation, it's Star Wars for them. There's no other movie that's going to fill that. Could Avatar be that movie for maybe our generation, or maybe even, our
The next
children,
generation,
the next
yeah.
generation? That's kind of what he's getting at. I think it's worth a shot because, if you're gonna film a movie and it's gonna be bad, and not that Avatar was or anything like that, but I'm saying, like, if you're gonna film a movie and it's gonna be bad, you have time to make up for that with other movies. Is it? So I guess what I'm trying to say, is it worth the risk? I think yes, when it comes to Avatar.
I feel like, but at the same time, he should diversify what he's doing. Because there are other directors who have had a focus where they're like, I'm going to make this movie, but at the same time, they'll make several others. Ridley Scott, while working on Alien Covenant, still made The Martian, executive produced several other movies, and made Exodus, Gods and Kings, which is not regarded very highly, but he did different things. And I think when people look back, even lasting legacy, when you think about the original Star Wars, as my parents both saw it in theaters, they both remember waiting online, they remember the experience of going out to see Star Wars. I don't know if that sort of sentiment even exists in the modern world. And I think
you're right.
what matters most is about the cultural impact, where Avatar was, everyone was like, yo, you gotta go out to see it, it's the movie of the week. But at the same time, I think when people look back at the late 2000s, early 2010s, it's going to be the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because prior to Avatar, you had Iron Man. Right after Avatar, you had Iron Man 2, you had Captain America, you had Hulk, and then you had the culmination of it all, which was Avengers. The Avengers movies are also in the top movies ever, the highest grossing movies ever made. And it's one of those things where I feel like they may have missed their opportunity. Because Star Wars, it came out, and then they were like, we're immediately doing sequels. He had all of this planned out, and James Cameron's the same way. He even wrote a book about the history of Pandora, but I feel like if he had it better planned out, we wouldn't have to wait 11 years to see an Avatar sequel. Even George Lucas had the ability to even give away his second movie to be directed by someone else so he could focus on the story. And so
okay, I see what you mean.
Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, both different directors, and George Lucas worked with other screenwriters to make sure that they came out, and they came out the way that they were supposed to fit the story. Seems like James Cameron is trying to be as controlling as possible to make sure that nothing diverges, but I think if you spend 11 years of your life focused on how this is going to be your magnum opus, you might fly too close to the sun. You might ruin your own thing.
So, if that could potentially be the case, then what is it that we can expect with the Avatar movies to come? Keeping in mind the fact that this was a story that has been told, Pocahontas type deal. What can we expect within the reveals of the next Avatar sequels to come?
It might even be interesting if what he does is a retelling of classic tales through the Avatar world.
Very good.
Similar to how the two Thor movies were both Shakespearean plays
Yeah.
played out through those characters.
That's my thing. I'm hoping to see almost like I don't know, like the good, the bad, and the ugly type deal with Avatar, right? Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Something
that
like,
would be phenomenal.
something like that, where they establish like very, very good characters, multiple characters that have conflicting ideals and interests and values that affect the way they want to shape their decisions.
I had almost no interest in the Avatar sequels until you just said that sentence. And I just want to applaud you, because it's one of those things, the thing that I just said, I just thought of. You said that, my mind is blown. And I'm
a filmmaker.
really-
I notice it based on these like past few podcasts. I don't include a lot of my conversation, but artistically, I know how to like break down a film and almost know what a good direction is when it comes to making those films. And I think that with the Avatar sequels to come, if they can make a film
in that setting,
it's going to be successful and it's going to pay off.
Yeah, and I think that's the best case scenario. The one thing I worry about is even the fact that he's signed Sigourney Weaver on for another one is they're not going to do that, and he's going to be like, these are the characters you love. Can you name me any character from the first Avatar movie?
Sully.
Jake Sully.
Jake Sully. Yeah.
Sully.
Jake
I remember
Sully.
because of Monsters Inc.
That's the thing. The only reason I currently remember any of the characters' names in Avatar is because of the YouTube channel Funhouse and their Avatar gameplays. That's the only reason and connection I have to it. If you had asked me 8 months ago what any of their names were, couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I feel like he did a great job world building, but he didn't build up these characters. So setting up sequels based around, we're bringing back this character, doesn't mean anything to me, because I remember Sigourney Weaver is a scientist.
Yeah.
The movie is natives, scientists, and army men. I don't know her name. It's one of those things. I hope he gets the right lesson from it. I feel like I can't possibly say James Cameron is going to mess this up, because he has literally never messed anything up at this point. The worst he's done is executive produce other Terminator sequels, and when Terminator Genesis came out, he said, I like this one. At the same time,
how he does it, he knows it works, like,
Yeah.
with his films, and like that's why there is that payoff. So you know what? I think it's safe to say with the Avatar films, I'm gonna be okay and accepting of where they go. Given the fact that yes, there are certain repercussions that should be taken account for, and there is a possible chance of mistakes to be made, I think overall I'm going to enjoy the sequels.
As long as they are retellings of the great stories in that new setting of Pandora or whatever it might be.
Yes, I would hope to see some more of that, like we did in the first one with the Pocahontas type thing. But if he can tell a story in a new way, and it might just be a new story that just kind of has the characteristics of what made the tellings of old stories great.
That's fair. All right, well, here is to you, James Cameron. We wish you all the luck. I'm sure you won't be the poorer for it.
yeah,
because you'll be fine.
you're really going through a hard time.
If you want me to be an Avatar, just let me know.
Yeah,
You
hit
can
us up.
CGI my face. I'll become a giant blue man with a tail.
Thank you all very much for listening. We'll be back again very soon.